Welcome! This is the assembly video for the Chute Master. Hi, my name is Dan Gorman, and I started jdtractorupgrades.com about 6 months ago. I have a new product called the Chute Master, and this is primarily an installation video. So right off the bat, you're going to have to take parts off of your existing snowblower. So these are the 3 parts to remove. That's the housing cover. This is a bar that goes underneath the slots, and this is the hydraulic cylinder. And make sure when you remove the hoses, you don't forget to hang on to your orifice restrictor. That's the John Deere part number right there. And then these little clamps come off. They hold down your main chute. Okay, so before we move on to the sub-assemblies, which will come next, I just want to show you some of the major differences between my product and my competitor's product here. I'd say the big obvious difference is the cover. I have a single piece cover that prevents fingers from getting in. My competitor has a 2-piece cover. It's nice, it works fine, but there's nothing, I don't think OSHA would approve that, to be honest. And as far as how he does, he has a metal plate that he bolts to the top of the housing of the snowblower. And he needs that. He uses these 6 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he has this extra plate here on the main sprocket. He has this plate that he uses, and then he reuses the 3 tabs that will hold it down. But anyways, I just thought to show you that. Now my system doesn't have its own independent plate. I use some slots that are already there in the housing, and this is where the motor mounts to, and you can tighten the tension on this. So he uses an idler over here for his chain tension. I just move the whole motor for my tension and lock it in with 3 screws. And then he sells this as an option to cover up the 2 slotted holes that are left after removing the original equipment. And I came up with this. These are 3D printed. Each one pops in from the top. It goes like this, and there's a cover that you screw. There's a cover on the bottom that you screw in. So these are very inexpensive to 3D print. I mean, I have to admit, this is nice and rugged, but it was a little overkill for what you really need. And this weighs a couple pounds, and these are ounces. So I just thought this was a better approach to blocking those holes off. And so, and then the other thing that is I really like about my cover is when you go to put it on, it can slide right over. It has just enough room, and it can even go. It's even got enough room to go over these standoffs that are for the electric actuator that we'll be installing later on. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to see that it's not like a knockoff, like I copied every single thing. I made what I consider to be a better version, but it's also a more expensive version. So, you know, the saying, you get what you pay for. When I designed this, I designed it to be as good as I could make it. I wasn't designing it with a price in mind. You know, that's the name of the game there. Okay, so that's a quick summary of the major differences between my product and my competitors. When I first introduced this on some of the forums like Green Tractor Talk, right off the bat, some people who had bought this already were complaining about my price, saying I copied it. Well, yes, it was copied to a certain extent, but the design I made is thoroughly different than the design that they bought. So I just want to make sure that people know that. Okay, to save time when we do the final assembly in the later shot, we're gonna go over how we prepare the main chute for going into the assembly. Now, we buy these rings. We buy this as a big plate, and we machine out the center, put the 4 holes in that match. You can probably see there's 4 holes that mount the chute on. And one thing we discovered is that the holes that John Deere put in are not symmetrical. One hole is off, and we'll take another shot later on. But you can see I have these 4 screws going from one plate to the other, and 3 of them come through, but 1 of them you can't see from your angle right now, but it's off by about 1/8 of an inch. So we had to, it was quite a surprise to us that they would not make something that was symmetrical. So we have managed to work around that. We just moved the hole where it should be. So everything lines up great the way we have it now. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this and then redo it. It goes pretty quick. The secret is there's only one way to get the chute on. Okay. And these are all stainless steel screws. And they can't be any longer than the length they are, because you can't have them come through past so they scrape on the bottom. So anyways, this is a 3D printed ring that comes off. You can, there we go. It's got a gap in it, so it flexes. And this is made of PETG. It's UV resistant. If anything ever went wrong with it, we could just print another one and send it off to you. But the purpose of this is when the chute's in place, there is these 3 fittings that go over this, and they slide. When this goes around, they keep it from lifting, and they slide against this surface. And the screw heads are recessed, so it never hits the screws. So this is necessary for the function. So anyways, so here's the plate. Now the way it works is there's lettering. This is the hole that is off. And there's lettering here saying Martin, it's a Martin pulley, and that's the hole. So when you go to put the chute on, see the red arrow there? That's the hole that will be one of the 4 that will make everything line up perfectly. Okay, and I'm going to start with that hole. What? I forgot. And then this has to go on in the same relative position. It goes on a little easier than it comes off. So you get lined up. Put this in here. There you go. Once you get one, then I usually go to the opposite side. There we go. I just had to pivot it a little. That's number 2, number 3. And I provide 3 different screwdrivers that have ball ends on them. So as you can see, this one here is tough to get straight on it. So I actually even give you the tools to put it together. And now, so when you're ready to, the next step when you assemble your thing, these are ultra high molecular weight 3/8 inch thick rings. UHMW, that's what they're called. And this is a brand new one. I had these cut out. This is one that I've been using. You see the bottom is nice and smooth, and the top, you can just see like tiny little wear marks, but this will last a very long time. My competitor's design does not come with any kind of friction reducer. On his design, the bottom of the chute is directly on the metal of the frame of the snowblower. So it will, you add friction, it slows it down. So anyways, when you put this, you'll see this later when we do the official install. You put this on first, and then you put this over, and it sits like that. Okay, just to make sure that you have a thorough understanding of the hole that's off, you'll have the writing here, and then to the left of the writing, because like I said, there's no writing on the other side of the gear. So in fact, right now it's 2 gears together, so ignore that fact. But so anyways, when I pop these in, these 3 are dead centered. This one here, the screw is, you can't see it from that angle, but the screw is to the right about at least 1/8 of an inch. And this pod technically is upside down right now. When it goes on, you will have the writing there, and the split will be in the front. I only flipped it upside down because the screw heads could go into these pockets. But it's still the same principle. Right now, if I just line up these 3 holes, they line up perfectly, you can see this screw is off. And really don't worry about it. It's just something you need to be aware of, because when you go to, there's extra holes on the chute, so when you go to put your chute on, you got to make sure you get the 4 that line up with these. And that's pretty much that. And then after that, we're ready to move to the next step. Okay, so this next sub-assembly section is really kind of covering two sections. One is the motor mounting plate. This yellow part is the motor mounting plate. This is what I call the swivel plate because it swivels. When the motor is on this, so you mount the hydraulic motor right there into these three holes. And this here, this plate with the three holes, this mounts onto the top of the chassis. There are two slots in your chassis that we use. We use existing holes. There is not a hole right now. The middle hole is what I call optional. But from my experience, once you get the plate fastened in properly, you're going to want to slide it all the way to the left. So the screws either hit the left side of the slot or there's a raised ridge of steel on the top of your chassis of your snowblower. As you push it over, it won't go any further. So you want to have it at right angle. You might want to take a T-square on your snowblower and get this lined up. It's not incredibly important. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. But usually, what I like is when you get this in position, usually you loosen the chain this way and you tighten it this way. Usually when the chain is fully tightened, this swivel plate is in a direct line with this. So that's how it's been working for me. So that's a swivel plate, and here's the pump. When I just shipped an assembly today, and this takes 3 quarter 28 holes, not 20. Usually it's quarter 20, but these are a fine thread. And when I ship, I put these 3 screws right in the pump, so they can't get lost easily. They'll say, oh, that must be what they're for. And so then, normally you would have this mounted, and you would have this come up from below. One more's got to come out. So when we do the final assembly video, I won't get into all the details on this. You'll have already seen how that works. Okay, there's a triangle right here. All right. All right. There's 1, there's 2. Okay, so now you can see how that swivels. And we don't want to forget 2 more things. One is this is a Martin 40B S958. It's got 2 set screws on it. There's a keyway on the motor. There's a keyway slot on this. You slide this down, and usually when you finally adjust this, you want the chain to be roughly horizontal going to the main sprocket. I think the first one I did, it was right near the top. I might have even raised it a little higher than the top, but you can figure that out when you get it. And this doesn't like to turn. That doesn't like to turn without the hoses. And then one other thing I didn't get to cover, when this plate is mounted, there are 2 standoffs. These 2 standoffs are used to secure the right-hand side of the cover that goes over all this. And then there's these 3 screws here. One is for pivoting, and the other 2 I have double screws for holding it down whatever angle you secure it in. So you want to make sure these are good and tight. And then we have the 2 fittings that go in here. So we're going to show you how to put the fittings into the pump. When my competitor was selling his, he didn't happen to give people the fine point of actually which way they go. Now, it comes with some oil in them, so it's not a lot, but that's what comes out. There's probably oil going to come out of this one too. Yep, there's a little oil coming out of that one. It's not a lot, just I'm assuming it's to protect the motor. There's not a huge amount in there. All right, so that's good enough. All right, so these are the 2 fittings. Okay, so these ports are where you're going to eventually hook up your hydraulic hoses for running the device. So luckily, when I bought my competitors, a lot of the people didn't know which way to put these in. It wasn't in the original instructions. So a few people posted on the forums how to do it. So I'm going to make it easy on you. So anyways, there's this side with the smaller O-ring and this side with the big external O-ring. So when you put these in, the larger O-ring side goes into the motor. Now, I'm not going to pump them. I'm not going to tighten them too much. And then I'm going to do this one too. And you can switch hoses if depending on which way you want to be left and right, you can switch hoses. Okay, it's finally going in. Now normally I sock these up, but we can do that later. So now, this is kind of an important part. Earlier, I showed a picture of this is actually that restrictor that slows down the flow to your pump. So you don't want your chute going too fast left and right. And because when it impacts the stop, it can cause the chain to eventually loosen up. So this is called a restrictor. And again, it's kind of like it goes in the same way. On this side is just a flat side, but you want that smaller O-ring. Just like there's a small O-ring on this side, you want that to go there. And then your hose, you probably will put this into the female side of the hose and put that on. And there's 2 of them. Now these should be on your original hoses. When you take them off, make sure these don't just fall out and you forget about them. But if you do lose them, or I did give the part number. I think you can get them for about $15 from what I saw. So that's the motor mounting base, the swivel plate, and the motor install. Okay, so this is my 54-inch John Deere snowblower on my X738 tractor. So now we've shown you the preliminary sub-assemblies, and now everything's been stripped off. We're ready to start building it up. We're going to start with the chute assembly, then go to probably put the pump on, then get the chain on, and somewhere we'll fit in, we'll get some clamps on. We'll just do it step by step to reassemble it. First we're going to pop the ring on, and you can see that even though this is nice and slippery, it's not really sitting on a completely flat surface. It's got these 3 little raised bumps. So if the idea is for this basically not to spin, but there's nothing stopping it. The main hope is that the chute spins on this, but there's nothing stopping this from rotating. It's got a little free play in there, because this is at a slight taper when it goes down. It gets a little, see all the space here? It's a slight taper on that. So now I'm going to take the chute, and you have already seen the sub-assembly on this, how these screws go. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I got these tight from earlier. Doesn't hurt to check tightness. And then, so you can see how that moves pretty nicely. Of course, it has to sit nice and flat, and that's what the next step will do. So I'm going to start putting, this is the rear bracket. I call it bracket rear because it's alphabetically, it was easy to have all the B's for the different brackets. So anyways, and the main purpose of this bracket is on the sides, the stop hits these. When it goes left and right, that creates the ultimate limit of the travel. This ring will go on the back, but I can't put that on now. If I put that in now, I won't be able to slide the cover down. The cover would hit that, so that will go. So now I'm going to move on to the one on the right side. Now this one here, we printed out of one piece for we have our reasons, but that's all that needed. And again, we supply these screwdrivers because it really helps to have the ball end. You know, like on this, it's very hard. Some of these you can't get straight in on them. So the ball end is very handy. And then you can see how it's starting to tighten up, you know. And a lot of times they have to kind of work themselves in. The pump has a lot of torque to move that around, and it kind of breaks in. Then we got the left bracket. Now right here is a standoff, and the purpose of that standoff is to secure the cover over here on the left side. And there's also a hole here and a hole here that also secures the rear of the cover. And then there'll be 2 other standoffs over here. So anyways, I'll just put this in, get this going. Okay, that's on there. So at this stage, before I put this bracket on and this bracket on, I have to put the chain on. So that just comes right over the top, go like that, and just leave that hanging there. And then you only have to do it for these 2, because the other side, the chain doesn't go under the front right bracket. Okay, so that's our assembly. So now we're going to do the hydraulic motor. You saw the prior assembly video for this whole assembly. I still have to put that hose restrictor back in here that I showed you earlier. So anyways, this is something new. When this gets put in, this middle hole is the only, these are factory slots. This hole here I put in, and I didn't put it in until after I got it all locked into the factory slots. And I've been telling people to put it in, push it all the way to the left. But recently we 3D printed these two little inserts, and I think they're going to help standardize the positioning of this. So I'm just going to have, when I put the screws in, I'll have to kind of screw them through it. They don't slide easily. So first I'm going to put the chain on though. And I have to loosen it so I can pivot it. Yeah, there we go. All right, that'll make it a little easier to do that. So let's get the first, I'm going to get the first screw in now. The secret is to keep your finger on the insert so it doesn't get pushed through. And now I'm going to put this on. I want to make sure I get these washers on. Okay, I got my socket all ready. I'm just going to bring this in a little. Okay. Now I'm lining this up. I can see the other hole from the other insert. And I'm going to put my finger under here to make sure that doesn't push out. That's a secret. And one more washer. And one more nut. So get the washer on there. Here we go. You want to get these nice and secure. There's going to be a lot of forces going through these two screws. All right, those are good. Then, what I call the optional screw, which to me is not really optional, you really want to have it in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this all the way in. Okay, and so this goes plenty far in so you can lock in the chain. And then this is where the T-handle comes in handy. So I'm going to get over here and pull on it. I usually start with the pivot bolt and then I get these. And you can see that the chain is fairly horizontal, and that 9-tooth gear is almost near the top of the shaft of the motor, just to give you a perspective. And you want these snugged up nice. So, and then I want to point out that these are the hole inserts that I showed earlier. They go in. This one has a diagonal line, so when the cover comes on, it abuts the edge of the cover. So that's all nice and secure. Earlier I was talking about this orifice restrictor, and I actually took it out of here, so I'm putting it back now before we demonstrate the function. I'm pretty sure I took it out of this side. Looking, yep. So that's, and like I said, I'm going to have the rubber O-ring on this side. And that little restrictor hole, that will slow down the flow of fluid so it doesn't turn too fast. And that goes in real easily. Okay, so that's that. So I'm going to start this up and run that back and forth a few times. I'm going to do that with the cover off so you can see the internal workings and how smoothly it goes. And then I'm going to stop, put the cover on, and I'm going to also, while I'm at it, I'm going to put this actuator for the chute spout and demonstrate how there's a loop that I can put this wire through. All right, so that's what I'm going to do next. Here we go. I'm going to start this up. I'm going to go just show you how the mechanism works. Okay, so now we're at the point to slide the cover over. And this even goes past the studs for the actuator. All right, so that goes good. Everything looks good. So now I'm going to start with, there's 2 holes here, 1 here, and 2 here. I usually do the back ones first. And I have these rubber washers I use with a neoprene rubber bonded to them, and that helps to protect the paint. Okay, 1 in, we'll get this other one. Okay, then there's 2 here, and that pulls the cover down a little. That's the 2 standoffs we installed earlier in the earlier part of the video. And these are rubber coated washers. They work great as far as protecting the finish of the paint. There's a lot of vibrations going through this. And then I have one last one. All right, so that's done. And now that the cover's down, this is called the eyelet. We'll put this eyelet on. Okay, so that's how the cover goes on, and that's how you install the eyelet. Okay, so just a couple weeks ago, I had to tighten the chain, and I realized I had to remove these 2 screws, these 2, and this 5th screw, and I also had to remove the eye bolt. So I got the brainstorm of making these little plugs. We drilled these 3 holes, and if you were to look in, you'll see how that pops in? There's 1 hole. There's the other screw. And that's the pivot bolt. So you could actually, you don't have to remove this at all. You could loosen them up, get over here and pull it back and tighten them up. Of course, I'm not going to loosen it up now because it's all nice and tight. I just wanted you to see that. Okay, so now the cover's on. I showed you how to tighten the chain through using these holes. And now, I bought this a couple weeks ago, and this is a linear actuator driven by 12 volts, and it goes on these standoffs. Okay, so we're installing the linear actuator right now. Okay, so there's that one. And then on this one, you can raise this up or down. This is a real nice quality one. It's this boot prevents the rain from going in, because I had an older one that the rain got in there and got into the gears in the motor. And the reason we have this eye bolt, because this works great. Put this there. Okay, so now we're going to connect this up. And so now we're going to do the demonstration of the rotation with the cover and the actuator operating. So now I'm going to start it. I'm going to turn on the blower. I'm going to turn the chute back and forth a few times, and I'm going to do the spout motion up and down. Okay, thank you for watching my video for the Chute Master. If you want to get one of these, just go to jdtractorupgrades.com.